Hello online students. Once again in this module I'm combining some material filmed a couple of weeks ago for the 8-week course with some specific comments pertaining to your class. The reason is somewhat different this time. While I can now get into the Cengage part of the course again as an instructor, my main computer suffered a catastrophic hard drive failure yesterday. It is being fixed, but I'm working on my tiny laptop, which is, as you can see, not a great place to film demo videos. Luckily for us, a lot of what I had to say to you, I already said to the other class. So take a look now at some feedback about the TED paper drafts, particularly my expectations for revising your thesis statements, your organization, your citation, and the MLA Works cited entries. After that, I'll be back to make some more general comments about your specific progress in this course. Hello online students. In this video, I want to give you some feedback about your Module 6 work and to give you some more direction about your TED analysis papers. As you saw in Module 6, we're in a transition period because of the recent changes to the MLA style manual. So first, some general observations. I see most of you trying to cite your work carefully and well. I really enjoyed your discussions on the discussion board about plagiarism and Rand Paul and things like that. Most of you are connecting on some level that you'd already give credit verbally to someone's ideas in a conversation, and that's really all the citation rules are about, transferring that to a written medium. And why would you give credit in a conversation in the first place? Well, so the person you're talking to could follow up. Maybe ask that person questions or get more information. And you really can't do that if you don't know where the ideas came from, right? So this assignment was really about learning to give credit to a source and to fairly communicate its ideas in writing. Some of the mistakes I'm seeing are my own fault for not updating your assignment sheet, but they're really simple fixes. So let me show you this for a minute. So first of all, whenever you mention a source, when you're first starting out, you need to identify the author, the title of the work, and its main idea. And I would suggest in your TED paper that you do this at the very beginning as sort of a lead-off. An example might be in the TED Talk, The Power of Believing You Can Improve, Carol Dweck argues that a growth mindset is more beneficial to students than a fixed one. Now, I need to put this into a clearer model in my assignment sheet itself, and I think this will save some students loads of trouble. Next, when you're citing something, if you'll notice in the transcripts, they have timestamps in them. Let me go back to that real quick. Here, this is Carol Dweck's transcript, and you can see here that there are these little timestamps on the transcript. So if you take some text from any of these things, you can use these numbers to sort of cite it. And that's kind of what I've done here if we go back. Carol Dweck observes that not yet also gave me insight into a critical event early in my career. And you see I've used the 043. See, I've also putting the period at the end of the parentheses and not within this thing. That's another thing to be aware of. So notice that you don't have to cite her name in the parentheses after her quote as long as you've identified her in the sentence or the paragraph and it's clear that she's the source. I'd use the speaker's name as a topic sentence in each paragraph to organize more clearly and keep the sources straight. And then when you add sources in your research papers, you'll likely introduce some in your sentences just as I have here as you set up the paraphrased or summarized or verbatim information. And then you'll identify others just in the parentheses. And we can talk more later about when each one of these works the best. As you go through your talk, make sure you're using present tense to keep the focus on the ideas and the flow of the talk, rather than on the past tense story of who did what when. Notice here I'm saying observes and not observed, even though it was, and this is generally how we handle sources in academic writing. The ideas are present now, even though the talk might have been given a couple of years ago. Finally, your assignment sheet gave kind of this model of the work cited, and many of you used it, and I was pleased to see that. But this isn't really correct anymore, and I'd actually like to ask you to change it to this. So this is a model. Notice it's not works cited if there's not more than one, so that's an error in the assignment sheet. And this is what I would like you to use instead for the TED Talk stuff. I'll make sure that a copy of this gets into your course so that you can do it. Now, on a couple of other notes, let me come back in here. I'm sure you've noticed that the Cengage side of the course looks a little bit different. And I'm sorry about that. I was under the mistaken impression that the changeover in June would not affect any of the courses that started in May like yours did. Quickly, let me go over to the Cengage side of the course. And I'll show you what NetTutor and Questia look like now, just so that you're aware. You see, it's a little bit different here. NetTutor is now this thing here with the sort of mortarboard hat, Ask a Tutor, and this is the one for Questia. I want to go in Questia a minute. I've really been impressed with how some of you are starting to talk about books in Questia. Now, it's great if you want to use these, but be aware you can use magazines or newspaper articles for your paper too. I'm going to do a quick search in here and show you a couple of things. So if I go in here, you see books are what come up first, but you can choose to go to magazines or to newspapers instead. Now, I will not demand that you use the academic journals if you don't want to. I think freshmen often don't have the kind of expert knowledge that makes them useful for the scope of a project. If you do use books, though, be smart. Let me go to a book real quick and click into it here to read it. If you're going to use them, don't try to read the whole thing. Use the tables of contents or the indexes. You can get to the table of contents here and actually go to the table of contents here and see things. You can also use this to go to the index at the end of, and you can do a search that way for things. You can also search within the work. I'm not sure how well that works in here, but you can try it and see how it works. Another thing I'll tell you is if you're not using the project space, you really might want to. Let me show you how that works really quickly. I'm going to go into my default project and click on it, and you can see kind of how it looks. I've got a couple of things saved in here already, and I'll save a couple more in here too. I'm going to go home and do my Viking search again. And the way this works basically, I think this is in a video later too. If I want to go to a newspaper article and click on an article at random, here we go. To save any article that you decide is interesting to your active project, you can just click here to save it, and now it's actually in the project, and you can remove it just as easily. Also, some of you have talked about getting back to things. If you click on the back arrow, it should bring you back to your search. So you can click into something to read it and maybe save it to your project, and then just use the back arrows up here to get back. Now be aware that starting in Module 7, you're asked to include your annotated bibliography entries and some notes in your Questia project assignments. This is so I can see that you're making progress towards the 10 entries in the final annotated bibliography and help you correct any formatting problems before you get to your final paper draft. I'd like to see your annotation of your source if you have it, but notes from your source are okay too. Be aware this is not like class notes, jotted down facts and things in your own words. I'd suggest you capture verbatim text from your source that you think you can use, along with a page number if there's one present. It also helps to see what the source has actually said when you're drafting, so you can decide how much to use verbatim and how much to do in your own words. And now we're back to look at the course calendar for your particular course. In Module 7, you're working on your peer responses again, and hopefully these remarks have given you some things to look for in your classmates' work. A couple of your classmates seem to have been trying to write a research paper rather than a TED Talk analysis. Let them know that, but also point out some issues or some strengths you see in what they were trying to do, as this may help them later on that final paper. I'd also recommend you look at all the papers submitted, not just the ones assigned to you for review, as several of your classmates are doing a great job with organization, citation, summary, and analysis. As you can see here on the course calendar, your Module 7 work is due quite soon, on Monday night. So make sure you devote enough time to get all this work done by then. You're doing your peer response work again, you're starting some more research, and then doing a couple of things that are fairly short with process analysis and with parallel structure. Now, as always, I'm happy to talk with you about your writing or any other questions or concerns that you have. You now are a little over halfway in this course, and I continue to be pleased and impressed with your efforts and your active support of each other. Let me know what I can do to help you finish strong, and thank you very much for watching.